QI didn't realize I was always staring until my neighbor finally snapped at me. Do you ever blink? Or are you just watching everyone like it's your job? Her words cut through the quiet hallway of our apartment building like a slap. I didn't see coming. I stood there frozen, keys still in my hand, grocery bag digging into my wrist, trying to figure out how to respond to something I didn't even know I was doing. People don't usually notice you if you're invisible your whole life, but apparently I wasn't invisible enough. Her name was Marla Jensen. Early 50s, sharp voice, sharper eyes, the kind of woman who could silence a room just by walking into it. Everyone in our building said she was direct, which was a polite way of saying she didn't tolerate nonsense. I usually avoided her, not because I disliked her, but because I didn't know how to exist around people like her without feeling like I was taking up too much space. I'm not staring, I finally said, though even I heard how weak it sounded. She folded her arms. You are. Every time I leave my apartment, you're looking. At people, at their bags, at their faces. It's uncomfortable. That word hit harder than I expected. Uncomfortable. Like I was something out of place in a world that already had too many problems. I wanted to defend myself, but the truth is she wasn't entirely wrong. I did look. I looked at everything. People's expressions, the way they held their shoulders, the hesitation before they smiled, the exhaustion they tried to hide behind coffee cups and rushed footsteps. But it wasn't because I was judging them. It was because I was trying to understand them. I didn't say any of that. I just nodded, embarrassed, and walked past her. That night, I sat in my small apartment staring at the ceiling fan spinning like it was trying to erase my thoughts. Maybe I really was weird. Maybe people noticed in a way I never intended. The next morning, I decided I would stop. No more looking. No more noticing. Just head down, mind my business. Live like everyone else in the building seemed to do so effortlessly. It lasted exactly 4 hours. That's when I saw the boy. He was sitting on the front steps of our apartment building, wearing a backpack almost bigger than him. He couldn't have been more than 10. His lunchbox lay open beside him untouched. He wasn't crying loudly. It was worse than that, silent crying. The kind where a child tries so hard not to make a sound that it becomes painful to watch. I kept walking. I actually tried, but something inside me refused. So I stopped, and I looked, really looked. His shoelaces were untied. His shirt was slightly wrinkled like he'd been sitting there for a long time. His eyes kept darting toward the street, like he was waiting for someone who wasn't coming. I didn't mean to stare. I just noticed. And apparently I had stopped walking long enough for him to notice me noticing him. He quickly wiped his face. I'm fine, he said before I even spoke. No one asked, I replied softly. That made him pause. Most adults would have kept walking. That's what I had promised myself I would do, but I didn't. Instead, I sat down on the step a few feet away from him. You waiting for someone? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. My mom. Something about the way he said it told me everything I needed to know. I didn't push. I just stayed there. Minutes passed, then more. Cars came and went. People left for work. The world kept moving like it always does, indifferent and fast. But his mom never came. Eventually, he spoke again. She said she'd be here after school yesterday, too. I felt something tighten in my chest. Do you live nearby? He nodded toward the building. That was all he said. We sat there longer than I intended. I told myself I was just keeping an eye on things. Just making sure a kid wasn't alone too long. That was reasonable, right? But when I finally stood up, I knew I couldn't just walk away. Come on, I said gently. Let's get you something to eat. He hesitated like he'd been told not to go with strangers his entire life, which, of course, he had. So I added, we'll stay right here. I'm not taking you anywhere, just the corner store. You can pick what you want. That seemed to help. He stood up slowly, grabbed his backpack, and followed me like a shadow that didn't trust the light. At the store, he picked the cheapest sandwich and a juice box. I bought him a full meal and a second sandwich without asking. He noticed but didn't comment. We ate outside on a bench. That's when he told me his name was Elijah, and that his mom had started working 2 jobs after things got hard at home. He didn't explain what hard meant. He didn't have to. By the time we finished eating, the sun had shifted, and I realized I had been gone longer than I intended. I walked him back to the building, and he quietly went upstairs. I told myself that was it. Just a moment. Just a stranger helping another stranger. But life doesn't let you file things away so neatly. The next day, I saw Marla again. She was leaving her apartment as I came in. Her eyes immediately locked onto mine, and then she said it again, quieter this time. "You're doing it again." I sighed. "Doing what?" "Watching people." Something in me finally cracked. "I wasn't staring at you. I was helping a kid yesterday. He was alone for hours." Her expression shifted slightly, but not into apology. More like calculation. "There are a lot of lonely people in the world," she said. "You can't fix all of them." "I'm not trying to fix anyone." She studied me for a long moment. Then she walked away without another word. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, Elijah wasn't on the steps. The bench was empty. The day after that, still empty. On the third day, I asked the building manager casually if he knew the kid in 2B. He looked confused. "They moved out last night. Emergency relocation. Social services got involved." Something dropped inside me. "Is he okay?" I asked quickly. The manager shrugged. "Not sure. Heard his mom was struggling. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I had done something wrong, but because I realized how quickly people disappear when no one is watching. And then I thought about Marla's words again. "You're always watching." For the first time, I wondered if she meant something else. The next morning, I knocked on her door. She opened it cautiously. "What?" "I think you were right," I said, about me staring. She raised an eyebrow. "That's a first." I swallowed. "But I think you misunderstood why." She didn't respond, just waited. "I notice people because I'm trying to make sure no one slips through the cracks," I said, "not because I'm judging them." For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she stepped aside. "Come in." Her apartment was neat, too neat, like someone who controlled everything she could because life outside wasn't controllable. She poured 2 cups of coffee without asking. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I used to do that too." I looked at her. "There was a time I noticed everything," she said quietly. Then I stopped. Because noticing hurts when you can't save anyone. That line stayed in the air like smoke. We sat in silence for a while. Then she added, "The kid you helped. I saw him too." My head snapped up. "You did?" She nodded. "Every day. I thought someone else would handle it." Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. Just tired. That was the moment everything shifted. Not dramatically. Not like in movies, but quietly, painfully, humanly. The kind of shift that doesn't fix the world, but changes how you move through it. Over the next week, something unexpected happened. Marla started knocking on my door. At first, it was small things. A note about another tenant who seemed unwell. A package she thought was suspicious. A neighbor who hadn't been seen in days. And I started going with her. We weren't heroes. We weren't rescuing everyone, but we were noticing. Together. One evening, as we stood in the hallway outside an elderly man's apartment after making sure he had help on the way, Marla glanced at me and said, almost amused, "You still stare too much?" I smiled for the first time in a long time. "I know." She nodded. "Good, don't stop."